Rudy,
chanting,
Rudy,
just like in the movie.
Rudy.
Here he is. Good morning, Rudy. How are you, my man?
Oh, man, you guys look good.
How tall are you? You are kind of a smaller guy.
5'6".
Yeah, so you are a pretty small guy. So the film was accurate in that sense. And Rudy is going to be at the auto show tonight from 7 to 8:30 p.m. next to the Northern Ohio Honda dealers display. ClevelandAutoShow.com is the website address, and his website, RudyInternational.com. What's Rudy International? What do you do now?
Well, I speak for a living.
Yeah.
I go across the country international as well. It became part of the next level from the movie. The message of the movie, Rudy, meant something to people, so we deliver the message of hope. Never give up. I will always try. I will never quit. There's always another way, that type of message.
How much of the movie, I'm sure you're asked this a lot, how much is true, but if you were to base a percentage, are we talking 60%, 80%, 20%?
That's a great question. I took the concept to Hollywood, and it took me 10 years to get the movie in line with the studios.
Did people tell you sort of the same thing about the movie that they did with you playing football for Notre Dame? Oh, come on, no one wants to see this. Big deal, whatever. You can't do it.
Absolutely. You hear that all the time. But when they said no, I knew it meant something. People who tell you no, I knew it was good. And that was Hollywood. Because there was one person in Hollywood that wanted to do this movie. I had to find him. But Rocky was a great movie.
Sure.
Hoosiers, a great movie. Field of Dreams. All those movies I looked at and watched and studied, and I knew the guys that understood how to write Hoosiers. I wanted to get to them, and I got to them.
And you got to them.
Yeah.
And how exactly did you how did you get the film to be made? What's the process that happened?
These are great questions. Number one, I don't know other than it happened. Because of persistence, because of being out there. If you want to be something, you got to go out there and be around that energy, be around that culture. Mm-hmm. Just meeting people, and the more people you meet, the closer the gap closes in.
So did you basically just go to find guys from Hollywood and tell them your story and get them on board with it?
Well, I asked the question, where do producers hang out? That was my first trip to Hollywood. And they said, go to Carnegie Deli. Producers always come in there. So I would sit in there and listen to people's conversations. And when I found a little opening, I would introduce myself and tell them why I'm out there. And if they liked what I said, then they introduced me to someone else. And that took 10 years. Wow. But it happened. Actually, the movie got made through a very unconventional way by meeting people you never think would help you get the movie made. And there are people you would just look at, they're just common people. The mailman helped me get Rudy made.
How did the mailman help you get Rudy made?
I was invited to go to Hollywood, out to California, meet the writer who did Hoosiers, but he stood me up. And I didn't know whether to go home or go find him. Mm-hmm. How do you find a guy if you don't know where he lives?
Yeah.
So
this is before the internet and all that. Yeah.
Right. And the thing of it was I sat in a little deli, not Carnegie, but a little deli in Santa Monica for about 3 hours, and finally walked outside, saw a mailman whistling, and I said, man, I needed that smile. I needed your energy, man. Thanks. He said, where are you from, man? I told him, Indiana. He said, I'm from Michigan. We had a little connection, and he told me why he's passing mail out in Southern Cal, and I told him why I'm out here, and he says, I hear this stories all the time. I told him my little story. He said, dude, that guy you're talking about, I know where he lives. And he took me right to his house.
Oh, no kidding.
That's how it happened.
So then did you knock on this guy's door?
Knocked on the door, and he says, who is it? I told him.
Did you go, I'm the son of a bitch, or you just stood up? Get out of here.
No,
I may be 5'6", I'm going to beat your ass.
No. I said, I'm Rudy, man. He said, how'd you find me? I said, never mind, because the mailman said, don't tell anybody I took you here.
Sure.
And I said, I won't, man. And I said, never mind, but you're late for that. I said, look, man. He says, Rudy, I'm sorry, I've been up all night rewriting a script, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
I said, I don't want to do another sports story. I don't want to be labeled, and I hate Notre Dame. Those are the opening
What had he written before? Sports
Hoosiers.
Story. Okay, so this guy wrote Hoosiers. Okay.
Right. And he wanted to write other stories, go in other genres. So make a long story short, 2 more years, I'm working in a car dealership, developing a relationship, and this is how it happens. Because you meet someone through someone that you never think would know someone. Always treat someone right. You never know where they're going to get you, where they're going to take you. And you don't know who they know. And because of all that, all this starts coming together because I wouldn't give up on this desire and this energy of this message like Rocky and Hoosiers and Field of Dreams. I wanted my journey is everyone's journey. I wanted to put that in a major motion picture on the silver screen. One, that's impossible, they say. 1 in a million make it. And 2, you just don't walk into Hollywood and say, make my story. That doesn't happen. And they're all right about that because it doesn't happen that way. But if you make it their story, it happens. And that's basically how it all happened. I was I was a new car sales manager at a car dealership. I get the call from the gentleman who knew the writer. He's trying to get in touch with me now because he was at lunch with a producer. Right? And the producer is at Columbia Pictures. He said, look, Frank Price, who's the president of Columbia Pictures, who went to Michigan State, was a walk-on, looking for a football movie. Hello, there it is. It's all timing.
And 2 years before, you had pitched this football movie to that guy, and he goes, I have the story for you.
I got the story, and that's how it all happened.
How much you get paid for your life story?
They paid you a decent amount.
200 grand is what I heard. Is that accurate?
That's about right.
200 grand.
Yeah.
Now, do you get
hey, that's a lot. That's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money
for me
no
at that
kidding.
time. Heck,
Sure.
I never made over 50.
Do you get? Do you continue to get a cut of it, or just one flat fee?
It's called net proceeds, profit.
Yeah.
You never see it.
Yeah. So you.
But the platform they gave you.
Right.
I'm here with you today.
Sure, right. No one really knew who Rudy was.
And look
almost
at you.
a footnote in history,
Right.
basically.
Exactly.
And then you have the movie made, and you have, now you have speaking engagements and all sorts of stuff. In fact, someone just sent me a text message. You can text us at 35192. You can tweet us. Use the hashtag Rover Radio. This guy says, I just saw Rudy in a safety video at work yesterday.
Yeah, we did
Apparently you're making safety videos.
Yeah, well, we did a Courage Takes Safety. And how the accident happened, it was a decision made that basically when he made the decision to take a shortcut, it affected a lot of people's lives.
Turn the microphone a little bit closer to you. Like, there you go.
There you go. Yeah.
Like, you can actually rotate the whole
there
thing.
You go. My man over there. He smiles. We got to watch him.
Oh, yeah. He's always getting crazy with the guests in here, this guy, Dieter.
Oh, God.
So that part of the movie, definitely true, where your friend was killed in a workplace accident.
Right. Correct.
Was it a steel mill or what was it?
No, it was a power plant. They wouldn't let us shoot in a steel mill. In the power plant, so we took the steel mill in its place. And the purpose of the movie is the message, and we did embellishments. We did what we call dramatic composites to make the movie work. Because
like the black guy who was the groundskeeper didn't really exist.
Yes, he's got about 5 people in him.
Yeah.
That helped me at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And the kids never laid their jerseys on the table.
Yeah.
On the coaches. That will never happen. But it did happen in a much different way. There's a young man named Pat Sarb who went in there and gave up his uniform, and in turn the pay it forward type of thing. When he did that, his son ended up at Notre Dame wearing my number, being a walk-on. Now he's a doctor today. Mm-hmm. So all the things that happen, but you can't explain that in a movie. There's not enough time. That's where they do the composites.
For anyone who doesn't know, has never seen the movie, The Story of Rudy, I'll sum it up for you in a nutshell. You're a kid, 5'6". You played high school football. You were not particularly talented, at least according to the movie. You were an average sort of player, I guess, but you had a lot of heart. And you wanted to go to Notre Dame. For what reason? Why did you have this fixation on going to Notre Dame?
They said I couldn't.
And so one part of the movie that was left out, you actually joined the Navy, I think.
Right, joined the Navy. That's what changed my attitude.
And so you join the Navy, you come back, you go to work in this power plant. Your buddy gets killed. What happened? How did he get killed?
Well, he made a bad choice of taking a shortcut on a procedure he had to do, and the system called for fuel, and he happened to end up on the conveyor, and the conveyor started and put him through 8 feeders, broke his neck, and I just happened,
oh my God.
And I just happened to be there, and I
don't even know what 8 feeders is.
Well, they're little cold feeders that come down on it's a fuel system when the system calls for fuel to burn the coal to create the steam to turn the turbine, it starts right in the coal yard, and that's where the coal yard dumps this coal into this feeder so it can go into a crusher, crush it up so they can burn it. And that's where the problem was. He goes out there, sees the problem. Instead of taking out electrical, that's what I would have done. He stepped up, tried to fix it right away.
Tried to do it himself.
Instead of waiting for me, and bam, it happened. And happened.
He ends up on this, it's like a conveyor belt. And what happens? It starts moving and he's stuck in it?
It moved and it jumped and it hit his head on the conveyor, only like 2 feet off the conveyor, and broke his neck.
Oh, man.
And I just got him right before he went into the crusher. I just stopped the conveyor.
So you were able, so he didn't get in there and get crushed up with the coal and all that, but it still broke his neck. He was dead, and you witnessed this basically.
First time I ever saw an actual death accident of a friend who I was just communicating with 5 minutes ago.
Sure.
And now it just changed my life. I says, it was just an enlightening spiritual feeling I had. What am I doing? What do I really want to do?
Life is fragile.
Life is fragile, and I'm going to go for it. I got nothing to lose, everything to gain. The worst they could say to me is no, and I'll find another way of getting there. That's where Holy Cross came in.
Did you really, in the movie, you basically, your friend dies, you go to the funeral, and you leave the funeral, you get on a bus, and you go. Was it that quickly?
Movie. No, that's movie.
Yeah.
Right. We had to, because I took my dad's car, we didn't want to do all that, so we just put it on a bus.
But was it pretty quick after this?
Very quick.
So you basically changed almost overnight. You go, I'm gonna go for this.
It was that quick.
So you go down there, you enter into this community college in order to get the grades because you didn't have great grades.
Well, that's a fact. I had to get Notre Dame academically first. So I had to go to the junior college to get my grades up, then get in academically, then go try out for football. So there were two processes there.
Was it your brother in the movie? I forget. Did your brother really take your girlfriend that you left behind?
Well, it actually happened. That wasn't why I was in the Navy.
Yeah. Oh, so you go to the Navy.
Right. And we didn't show that. We cut the Navy out. Would have taken too long.
So you go to the Navy, and you had this girlfriend, and you go to the Navy, and you say, what, wait for me?
No, we kind of broke up before then.
Okay, so you break up. You go, I'm going to the Navy.
I'm a large family.
Yeah. Well, there are like 14 of you
14,
or something.
So everybody lives within a mile. Everyone marries a girl down the street and stays in the same neighborhood.
So if you mess with one of the Ruettigers, you have like 20 people coming to kick your ass, basically.
Basically.
So chances are all the women that you guys, all of you and the brothers dated, one of you had banged these girls before because there's so many Ruettigers and so few women, right?
At least we didn't kiss a guy, right?
So you go to the Navy, you come back, and your brother is now hooked up with his girlfriend.
He's the man now.
Oh,
right.
boy.
Yeah.
Did that bother you?
No.
It didn't.
I understood it. But in the movie, we created that feeling.
Sure. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So then you basically joined the practice squad for Notre Dame.
That's an interesting word. You said join. You forced yourself. They don't want you.
Yeah.
Basically, because they have a lot of other young players to look at. Mm-hmm. So I just went out there and started practicing and kept sticking around and hanging around, and it just happens.
So you do that, and you work hard. You get knocked around.
How grueling was that? Did you get beat up? I mean, day in, day out?
I think the most difficult thing about a walk-on is they only put you in when you're frozen, out in the cold. And,
standing around.
Standing around, and you got to hold the dummies. You're not really participating like the other guys are. It becomes very difficult, and that's becomes that's where you get hurt if you don't stay in shape, if you don't keep yourself warmed up. So that's what's the challenge, as you would know.
Now, was there any sort of a deal, or is this Hollywood as well? Like in the movie, you go in and you talk to the coach and you say, "Hey, put me in for the last game, or in the last season, just so I can play, one game." And he says, "Okay." Then he leaves, and a new coach comes in. And it appears he's not going to honor that. Is there truth to that, or did they try to just put everyone in for one game throughout the season, or what's the real story there?
Great question, great observation. Number one, Ara Parsegian honored all walk-ons and honored all seniors who contributed every day at practice. In the last game, he would dress all seniors. Mm-hmm. And that was a tradition. And they would dress 100 and some kids. Now, Era leaves. Dan Devine comes in from the Packers. Then CAA comes up with a rule: only 60 kids can dress at home. and 48 away, which meant there's 40 kids that are not going to dress, kids who should have dressed for their senior game. So because of Era's commitment to the seniors, we felt he should stick to that. Not myself, but other seniors. And it was a culture change. It was a change of attitude, change of behavior with a new coach coming in. So it was a very difficult transition. You know, being a Green Bay Packer coach, now coming to Notre Dame, following an icon, following a Era Parsegian, was a tough task for Dan Devine, and he was all business, and he brought in some wonderful coaches around him, and they didn't really have time to pay attention to guys like Rudy.
Right.
But because I was in the Navy, I was a boxer at Notre Dame. The Bengal bouts a good tradition at Notre Dame. I won it and beat some of the football players. They started noticing me. So they kept me around for the energy and the toughness and whatever they felt would contribute to that energy of that football team. Well, I stuck around, and they kept me around, and because of that, there were some seniors who kind of felt loyal to that, and they dressed for football games already. They felt loyal to that commitment Era had. They said, look, guys like Rudy will never dress. There's guys who played here 4 years that never dressed. I'm dressing because I'm on the first 2 teams, 3 teams. The only time I play if we're winning a lot or if we're losing. I've been dressing. So unselfishly, he goes in and gives up his uniform. That's a long story to tell. That's why we had to change it in the movie to where you show the participation of that football team giving up their uniform, and that never happened. But you got to remember, a lot of guys didn't know me. Even the guys who played didn't really know Rudy because they're so focused on what they had to do. There's only a certain handful of guys that they know you, but they don't know you.
Sure.
So you don't get the whole camaraderie of that football team, but they respect you because of boxing, because you're out there every day.
And then they finally, so they put you in this basically almost the last play of the game.
Well, it was only like 27 seconds, and Devine wanted me to get in. But the moment he wanted me to get in is we were on offense, and I'm a defensive player. I'm not. What am I going to do on offense? That's stupid. I'm not going to do that. Then we end up getting the ball back. Then I got to go on defense, and then the whole thing changed.
Then you end up getting into play, and you actually score. We talked. I think Bob Golick was here, and he was actually on the field with you, I think.
Well, I'm going to give you a picture. There's a picture of Bob Golick right behind the guy who's carrying me off. But I don't know if he even remembers that I played. That's the thing, because he was a freshman. A lot of freshmen don't know. He
told us a story. He was sitting right where you were. He said that we asked him about it a couple years ago, and he said that I think he was on the field. He said, "Yeah, you were maybe on the left. I forget." And he was in the center. I forget. And he said that he remembers it, and
he's a tough guy.
Saw you going around and making that tackle.
Well, no, see, Bob Golick is one of those guys that was probably one of the premier freshmen that came to that university. He was tough. And you always recognized him, and you always knew he would be somebody because of how his work ethic was and who he was and how he contributed. See, as a freshman, you're coming in with a lot of energy. And I saw that. I always watched him at practice. I always watched him how that guy's going to be somebody someday. And he was. He became that person. But you don't even know if those guys know you.
Yeah.
Because you're not folk, hey, do you know me? Hey, do you like me? I'm not there for them to like me. I'm not there whether they know me or not. I'm in there to contribute and do my job. And that's how it all came.
Did you feel like kicking Joe Montana's ass when he was sort of dissing you, saying, oh, come on, that movie was a joke. Give me a break.
No. I think Joe Montana said the right thing because it's true.
You could kick his ass, couldn't you?
I wouldn't even try.
I feel very... How old are you, Rudy?
64.
64. I feel like a real pussy right now because I'm looking at Rudy, and he's 5'6", he's 64, and I know that this guy could kick my ass in 2 seconds. Seriously.
Once you said, brick house.
Yeah, once you said that you were a boxer and all that, I go, oh, man, this guy's not messing around.
Well, I saw Montana as a freshman, and I said, that guy's going to be somebody. Listen, he was fourth-string quarterback at Notre Dame when he came in. Mm-hmm. He had to have a Rudy in him. He had to stick around and be persistent, too. He got his shot when 2 other guys got hurt, and another guy gets hurt, he gets his opportunity. There he is. He becomes that person.
Rudy Ruettiger is going to be over at the auto show tonight, 7 to 8:30 p.m. next to the Northern Ohio Honda dealers display. You lost. All right, so this is a great story, an inspiring story. that a great movie it turns into, and then you lose your way in the 2000s, I think it was. Mm-hmm. What happened? You
just get caught up with the wrong people. You don't pay attention to what you're doing because you're busy doing other things. You put trust in the wrong people, and they take advantage of you.
You got popped for, was it an insider stock trading?
No, what it was guys behind the scenes were doing something with whatever they were doing, and because I was a CEO at the time, I'm responsible for what they do. So I had to take that responsibility.
So they would go around and was it like a pump and dump thing where they would go, hey, this is a great stock,
I have no idea how they did it. I just know it's a very complicated deal, and I took you can't do anything with the negative. I just start moving on and moving forward, and that's how you handle that. You can't.
What's the worst part of your life? Was it that? Because you end up paying like $100,000 back to the Securities and Exchange Commission. Was that the lowest point of your life, or what is it?
It was a lesson learned.
Yeah.
It was an important lesson. And an important lesson was we have wisdom now. We can be more aware of what's around us instead of just allowing people. You got to check. You got to really verify people. Trust and verify. Ronald Reagan said it best.
About the Russians, right?
You got to verify. And that's the lesson.
Yeah. Are you married now? Or what's
married, 2 kids.
Married with 2 kids. You've been married for how long?
What, 18 years?
18 years. Well, it sounds, your family, was your dad still around when the movie came out, or had he passed away?
He passed away 2 years ago.
Oh, so he got to see the movie and everything.
Oh, yeah, we saw the movie. And, my dad has a good sense of humor. He understood it when he saw it. And when we all went in there as a family, we had 4 premieres, one in New York, one in L.A., one in South Bend, and one in Joliet. And it's doing the premieres is really fascinating because, sitting in front of you is Siskel and Ebert.
Yeah.
And they're giving you a thumbs up at the Toronto Film Festival. Then you're in L.A., James Caan sitting right next to you. He loves the movie. He said, we got a piece of crap movie. This is great, And when you hear comments like that, you say, wow, those guys, they loved it. Stallone loved the movie. You go on and on because I got to meet him, and he made a great comment to me. He says, I don't want to be remembered as Rocky or Rambo. I want to be remembered like you, Rudy, that guy who was a pain in the butt in a positive way that never gave up, and you gave positive results. He said, that's what we all strive for.
Were you as much of a sort of like a spaz like you were in the movie? Because you get out there, you're on this grounds, and there's a scene in the movie, you're on the grounds crew, and you get out there, and then you're recreating a play that happened the day before on the field, and you're running around, and he's at the 20, he's at the 30.
He's supposed to be working.
Yeah, and everyone's like, oh, my God, this guy.
Oh, no, that was Rudy.
You were like that.
Oh, yeah. Look, think about when you were a little boy. It's the same thing. I was imitating Mickey Mantle, Roger Maris in my backyard. It's the same thing. I mean, you get caught up in that dream. You get caught up, and you see these guys in real life. Eric Pennick says, oh, my God, there he is. And he still calls me today, Eric. And you see guys that you hear on TV, on the radio, and you see Bobby Gladjaw, who caught the pass to tie the Michigan State game. Now you're meeting him, and in turn, he introduces you to a friend that's in Scranton that knows an actor by the name of Jason Miller, and you meet Jason, and you end up casting Jason for the movie when we needed an Era Parsing. He was a perfect guy to play Era. And I remember seeing his movie, The Exorcist, and he was a priest, and he was an avid Notre Dame fan, and his son, Jason Patrick. They would come to Notre Dame before the movie was made, and Jason was dating Julia Roberts at the time, which no one could. You're meeting all these people, and all of a sudden, when the opportunity came, I know just a guy to play Era. Bam. I had him. I had Sean Astin and, Ned Beatty. Those were my picks.
Did you get tons of women after this movie came out?
I think Jon Favreau and Vince Vaughn did very well.
But you didn't?
I say Vince Vaughn, Jon Favreau did very well.
Jon Favreau was a fat ass in that movie, man.
But you know what? Look what he did. He changed.
Yeah, no, he did, right?
And he just...
probably inspired by the movie.
Well, he did Swingers off the set of Rudy, him and Vaughn.
Yeah.
That's how they met, right?
That's how they met. And Vince played, Jamie O'Hara in the movie. But they were into it. John Favreau was a sponge. He never left set. And post-production, he was right alongside of us. I remember doing the scoring at that age studio, and it was Favreau right next to me.
Yeah.
Just sponging everything up. And he would tell me how he's going to do this, his little movie. And they hired a guy, and they did Swingers. And there was a producer on our set, Kerry Woods, who actually helped sell the movie to Miramax. And that's how they got going. They did a lot of great work. And I honor... like John says, I would never got started, Rudy, if you didn't fulfill your dream.
Mm-hmm.
He was living in Chicago, Second City. They went to the Improv, Second City. That's how they casted him. And when they cast him, he was so passionate. He got to know the character. They studied the character. They got to know you. That's why it was so natural. Sean Astin was natural. I saw him in the movie Memphis Belle and Encino Man. I said, that's the guy. They just casted Chris O'Donnell. And so I just picked up the phone and called Angelo and Dave. I said, you guys should look at Sean Astin. And they did, and they both agreed. That's the guy. So I knew when to step in and when to step out.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a fascinating story. Rudy is going to be at the auto show tonight, 7 to 8:30 p.m. tonight. He'll be next to the Northern Ohio Honda dealers display, and for tickets, go to clevelandautoshow.com. Rudy, I appreciate you coming in.
No, you were
Great
awesome.
story, and have fun out there tonight. And go watch the movie again if you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
I just saw it. I
Get
just saw it
choked up
to
every
prepare
time.
because I knew that Rudy was coming in, and so I watched that again. I hadn't seen it in probably 10 years.
Oh, come on, man.
Probably. Yeah.
I pop it in once a month.
You do.
Oh,
you do.
Just to keep the fire going,
Dieter
man.
watches all these football movies. This guy,
But
3 national championships, this guy right
but
here.
nothing compared to Rudy's story. That just gets me going, man. I remember the first time I saw it, the whole football team went to the theater to see it. The coach took us, and it just turned our season around. Went from 1-8 to 2-10. So, thank you for that, man.
Hey, man. Hey, I got to tell you, I want to compliment both of you. You did a wonderful interview. You were great. You got a lot of heart. I appreciate that. And I'll have fun. Keep having fun with what you're doing. You're going to do great.
Yeah. I'm going to take a quick break. We will be right back on Rover's Morning Glory. Hang on.